Hey solvers, welcome back to another round of MIT Mystery Hunt 2020. I haven't released a video in a week, so I have a good backlog of solves actually. So I'll be hopefully releasing videos more frequently over the next week just to catch up to myself and try to get back to being stuck, I think, interestingly enough. But so last video we did part of Penny Part Guide. I have it up here on GIMP on the right, and there's a how-to. It has some bullet points, and each bullet point ends up kind of pointing to a certain section of the guide and being a mini puzzle. So in the first section, we cut out pennies and moved them around and did a bunch there. In the second section here, I have a document. So I've been into document, and right here was we had word play with 1 cent. We had a word search with words that looked like the word penny, and then used binary and @bash ciphers, and then we what was the third part? The third part was penny phrases, right? Penny for your thoughts, in for a penny, in for a pound, and all of that. So we've been doing lots of penny-related puzzles, and they've been giving us instructions. So we each puzzle ends with an instruction that is a number followed by some words that say so. 1, find and cut out regions. 2, connect centers of red pennies, and 3, valley fold. So that's kind of what we're looking for at the end of these puzzles. And yeah, so today we're going to do the next 2 bullet points and finish it up. This puzzle's been really fun. I think my favorite part is coming up. This was, I think, the most design-wise, like, I love the 1 cent idea. Like, coming up with these little phrases, including them, and then talking about celebrities was actually really fun, and that was definitely my favorite of the first half. But today we're going to do my real favorite part. So, new tab. 4th bullet says, enlighten your friends with fun facts about pennies. Then go for a drink at the pub, and we'll come back for the rest of that because that's a lot of information after that. But so we have a pub up here, right? We have a little advertisement that says Penny Pub, Coca-Cola style, right? That's going to be second. After what does it say? It says fun facts about pennies. I believe that's on the back side. So if I go to the back side of the brochure, I have a little section that says trivia time. I think I've got all of it on screen now. Did you know that newer pennies are mostly zinc, not copper? Who knows what elements they'll replace copper with next? So when you see that, and give this a go. This is a nice, easy section of the puzzle. Give this a go yourself. Pause the video. But here's the spoiler. When you see that, and hopefully you start trying to guess at these questions, and maybe the pattern spells itself out if you didn't think of it already. But the word elements refers to periodic elements, right? Zinc and copper are given as examples, but what elements are they going to replace copper with next? So we start answering the clues, and you should see some periodic elements pop out if you have the periodic table up, or whether you've memorized the first 50, or you madman. How would you do that? So the male pronoun, he, right? So the kind of, I think you had to parse through the grammar a little bit here, but basically after the word pennies, just start reading the interesting terms, because I think the best example is, did you know penny is an acronym for a professional basketball league? Well, the acronym is the NBA. But right, the first half doesn't really you can just cut it off, right? An acronym for a professional basketball league is the clue. So all of them are kind of like that. So the male pronoun, sage or rosemary, is an herb. Wax or fatty acid. This one's a little tricky, but with the theme, I think you can start to see, right? So we have H is hydrogen, He is helium, Li is lithium. That's the third element. So at any point, right, you can fill in half of these or guess a couple of them. A chime hit with a clapper is a bell. The cheese is going to be brie. And so if you get a bunch of these, you'll see this pattern of these elements. And they are the first 8 elements in order. An aquatic animal, not a mammal. Well, it isn't. I think it's a mammal. Is an otter, right? And otters have a pouch. And finally, this one took me the longest. This is like, I had to go start watching clips of Ark of the Covenant, because I was like, what was it in a temple? Was it in like there was that den of rattlesnakes and all that? And like, then it was in a truck, and then I realized like, oh no, it's just a crate. They have it in a crate the whole movie. And that's why, it doesn't blind anyone or kill anyone until the end, because it's safely in a crate. So these are your 8 terms, and they all start with They start with hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron. Whoops. These are the chemical abbreviations, the 1 or 2 letter symbols on the table. We have carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen. So it says, who knows what elements they'll replace copper with next? So if you actually replace each of those elements with copper, copper is Cu. Copper is Cu. I'll put it up there, right? So now we get a new word, which I love. I love this. This is not my favorite, but I really liked how they chose some pretty good words. I loved lipid and cupid. I don't know why that was so impressive. I was like, who thought of that? So you get all new words actually and that's kind of confirmation that you have any of these right. So crate I didn't get until I knew that it had to start with C and you had to be able to also switch out the C with Cu, and then I thought of it. Same with I think it was brie was actually the one because I had come up with there's a bunch of cheeses out there, right? And I think camembert, if I'm pronouncing that right, is another cheese that kind of fits the soft cow's milk description. So brie is the easier one. As soon as you know it has to start with B. So you have these words. And that's trivia time. This is where you get to go over to the pub. So, and I'll mention the other flavor text. So it says, read between the lines, and you might learn there's 7 secret ingredients. So have to keep the number 7 in mind. And we'll be reading between the lines. If I zoom in here, how about that impact? Everyone loves impact, everyone's favorite font. So there's a whole little blurb here, and you should read it, and the word prompt should immediately strike you as a synonym of Q, hopefully. That's right. Prompt and Q are pretty much identical words, and I think the first one I got personally was Marie. So we have because Curie here is a very unique word, right? It's her surname. Marie Curie is the famous one, the chemist. And Cuba is an island, and so the goal here is to find synonyms in this blurb for all of these words that we've come up with after replacing the element with copper. So we have roadside, which is curve. We have select and arrange they're a little generic. I think they're difficult because they're generic, but to cull and select and arrange and curate, those fit together. A cutter is a knife. So a knife is easy right at the end there. And finally, the evil one that took me way too long is reindeer, because we have Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, and Cupid is one of the other reindeer. So Cupid is a reindeer. That's a sneaky one. And so now we get these words. And I stared at these for a little while, and there wasn't anything there. But again, we have to go back to that text which said, if I go back to it, whoa, read between the lines, and you might learn there's 7 secret ingredients. So we had to read between some lines for 7 secret ingredients. Now, there are 8 words, so we know that these aren't like whatever it's referring to. There's only 7. And what you should realize is that I've listed these words, I've paired these all off with their elements words, and they form this sort of pattern across, right? So if I go in that order, as shown, we get this nice drawing, this shape where they all seem to, especially these last 4, right? They kind of Marie, arrange, island, and knife. They're all in a row. And so you should start looking at what's in between them, because as you read between the lines, I've hidden a word there. It's I'll circle both, right? So we get repeat going from roadside to reindeer, and this from reindeer to select. I'm okay. I just had to shake it off. We have the word process, and then we have the word with. We have lime and pennies, and this actually forms our answer. So we have 4. Repeat this process with lime pennies. I think that's the hardest step. I think the other steps are really fun and cute, and this one is the mean one where you really have to stare at it for a minute and make sure you have all the words in order and kind of color them right, and again, easy if you print it out. Easy if you print it out and have a pencil to kind of mark things down. So let me undo all that in case I need this document later. But that is the 4th mini puzzle. That gives you instruction number 4. And that's a pretty good one. So now we're going to go on to my absolute favorite, number 5. Use a map to plan the route. The map, it's right over here. It's big, it's colorful, it sticks out the whole time. I did this first. I actually kind of didn't know what to do for, like, number 2 was really hard, number 3 was really hard. I think my order was 5, 1. I think I actually did 5, 2, 1, 4, 3. 3 was the hardest one by far. But yeah, so I did this one first, and because I saw Slither and Link in the same sentence, and if you watched my Ferris wheel video, right, I've done quite a few Nikolai puzzles, and Slither Link is one of the more well-known ones. I have a site up here where I'm going to pull up in a second to show you what it is. But first, what am I going to do? I'm going to switch to a new tab. So if we go over to the map, I'll give you a cursory glance at this map. So we get a bunch of attractions. We have all of these names, and they have numbers with these cent symbols by them, and then we have this grid of A to I and 1 to 9. So on my sheet here, don't worry about this. These are some formulas that'll help me out later. I did some work to set this up, so it's easier to explain. I wrote down all of these. They have coordinate and they have an attraction name, right? So what we're going to do is it says sites are rated 0 to 3. And this next part is going to be very helpful later. So it says sites are rated 0 to 3, and sure enough, every attraction has 0 to 3 cent symbols by it. And now is where I'm going to pull up Slitherlink. I think I'm going to do it. Which side of the window do I want it on? How about, let's just open it first. So here's my Slitherlink website. This is kokoro-online.com/Slitherlink. This site comes up pretty easily if you Google for it. And I'll mention in a second why I like this site in particular. But basically what we're going to do is just simply mark all of these coordinates. So actually, no, that's what I should do is the Slitherlink. So the way this puzzle works is you had to make one continuous loop, not multiple, just one loop throughout the entire puzzle, such that the numbers always tell you how many sides of that square the loop passes through. So a 0 means, I can mark X's and say the loop is in none of these edges. And then a 3 means, it could be these 3, or it could be these 3, or it could be these 3, or I don't know. But essentially you've got to make one big loop, so it passes through everything, and, once you've satisfied all those constraints, you win. As I mentioned, all of the numbers in the grid are 0 to 3 in this puzzle. If you had a 4, it would form a box, right? So that matches up with the map we've got. So the cents are the values that you have to put in to constrain the puzzle, and the coordinates give you the position of where to put that number. So I've already made that on the side here. If I kind of drag it somewhat into view, I'm not going to solve it here, but I just want to illustrate. This is where all the coordinates are. You can just do that yourself, right? So we have F6 is 3, right? So that's right here. And then we have B6 is 2, and just give a couple examples. And C1 is arrival gate with 1 cent, so C1 is a 1, right? That's how it goes. You just slot all those numbers into their appropriate places. And the reason I love this particular site on the right here is because of this enter puzzle code. You can very easily encode any Slitherlink puzzle so you give the dimensions. You say, so this is a 9 by 9, right? So I say 9x9 with a colon. This is the code up here for this puzzle, and it's actually running off the screen. But all you do is you then type either digits if they show up in the grid, or letters in place of spaces. So an A is 1 space, B is 2 spaces, C is 3 spaces, and so on. There's a little in the FAQ on the site. It gives you an example of how this works. But essentially it makes it really easy to encode, and it's just left to right, top to bottom. You can do, if you don't like counting, you can just do multiple A's. So the first row is 2A, 1, 1, A, 0, A, 3, or you can replace the A with a B like I did, and so forth. But it's really, really easy to encode any Slitherlink puzzle and drop it in this website so that you can solve it sort of interactively, right, without doing weird line tools or anything in Excel or Paint or whatever. So here, right, is the puzzle. I've just plopped in my code and hit display, and there it is. And now I can solve it right here. Also, if you're a speed solver, boom, I could just click that and it'll solve the whole thing, and it's amazing. But we're not going to do that here. I'm going to show you how to solve this one. This is actually much easier than the Ferris wheel, so bear with me. So first I mark all the zeros, right? I know that the zeros are not part of the path. I can mark off anything next to the zeros that I know can't, feed in there, or else it would be a dead end. So I can do some of that. And then I can start marking off some nice 3s. And there's a 2 and another 3, and that 1 is complete. It's a dead end. This has to go up. This 3 has to go in this direction. So is there anything up here? Yeah, there's a corner, and then that is the 3. This has to go in this direction, so I know we've actually completed the 1 now. Okay, and now on to some more complex stuff. So we have some 3s here. That's the common configuration when you see 3s orthogonally next to each other. They have to be, if I were to not have any of these, it would make 1, 3 determined, and then you either have like a subloop or you'd have the other 3 would be impossible. So it's this form, and I can actually get rid of this as well. We have the same here. This 3 is done. I can make that all complete. This is a dead end, so I can move that out. We have, that's forced, that's forced. We'll come back to that. Do we have anything here? Let's see. Some other 3s here. So there's a diagonal trick, right, I've done before, where it basically, if you have this corner, it means that this 3 is impossible, and vice versa, we can't have this corner. So we know that only one of these is set, and so you can actually just color in this formation. And the same with these 3s. And that completes this 3. We can box off a lot of digits there. That's a dead end. Where else? I feel like this... this 1 is complete. That's a dead end. This 1 can be extended there. I know the path has to go in this direction or this direction, but not both, so that narrows down that 3. This would make the 2 impossible, so I can extend in that direction, complete the 3. Whoops. Oh, can you drag your mouse? I don't want to do it now by X a bunch of things by accident, but I think I can drag on this tool too. Very handy tool. I noticed that if I go this way, if this is the path, this becomes a dead end. There's nowhere for this to connect. All of this is, these X's kind of block it off. So I know that that is not the case, and this is how we'll complete that 3. There must be a way to do this little 3 right here. Come on now. How about the 1? If I do that, this is now a dead end in the same way I mentioned up there. So I know that's not right. That's a dead end. This 1 has to go there. This would form a box. This would actually loop around, so none of those can be colored. And now we have now I can complete these 3s. That's what I was looking for. This has to go straight up, so the 1s are now complete. That's a dead end. This 3 has to go there. This would form a subloop, which isn't allowed, so I now have to curve both of those out. We have this, I think I can make, right? This has to go that way, so there's that. This is a little bit interesting. So we have, I can't go south here, because if I did, I would be forced to go left, and this would be now a closed loop, right? I need one loop, one and only one, so can't go south. Which makes that a dead end, and I'll move this out. And I think I'm going to keep doing this. So I'm going to keep saying, I can't do that because it would make a subloop. So I'll cross that out and move this direction. If I went that way, it would break the 1. So I won't. Again, can't make that loop. The 1 is complete, so I'll move this way. Can't make this loop, so I'll move up in both directions. Can't make that loop. Move up again. This 2 is actually done, so I do need to move up with this one. And can't make that loop, so at this point, that should be it. If I check the solution, ta-da! So that's the solution, right? And what we're going to do now is, now I've got my list, and I will go back to my, let me close this window for a moment. Let me go back to the flavor text. We've got, if you form any first initial impressions of those you choose to include, we'd love to hear about it. So this is an indicator to take some first letters of something, right? And that's the only thing we've really got are all of these attraction names. So we can take the first letters of some of the attraction names, and when it says of those you choose to include, right? Now if I bring up the Slither link again, it's the attractions that are inside the loop that we've created. So what I'm going to do is, this is what my formula is doing. Formula is index matching. So it's not going to take the first letter, it's just going to take the whole the whole thing. I could probably take the first letter as well, but we're going to take the entire name of whatever coordinate I type here. So if I type F6, I'll get tree fortress. If I type B6, I'll get wine barrel. So all I'm going to do is go through this loop left to right, top to bottom, and take all the coordinates inside the loop. So there's A1, right, has a 2 in it. We have this I3 is another one, right, and so on. So it'll be D2, I2. Did I do I3? I meant I1. I said it has a 3 in it, but it's an I1. Sorry to fix that mistake. We have in the third row E3. In the fourth row we have D, and that's it. We have in the fifth row we have 3 in a row. We have G, 5H5, and I5. We do have an E6. We have H7, A8, and H8, and H. No, there's D9 first, and then H9. So I've just gone left to right, top to bottom, and you'll see that the first. What am I? Oh, I typed Control F. Come on now. Nope. Can I do first letters? So they spell find rhyme coordinates. So that's just reading straight down here on the first letters. It spells find rhyme coords. It's an abbreviation for coordinates. Now, before I get to that, I'll mention. I think what's a little that's actually the weakest step is you keeping things in this order of left to right, top to bottom of the loop is a little bit. I think there are a couple of different ways you can do it. The main one being just going through the list of attractions in order and spot checking. So saying like, is F6 in the loop? Is B6 in the loop? Is C1 in the loop? And then taking first letters if it is or isn't. So that you'll get all the right letters, but they'll be scrambled and they won't read right. So that's kind of unfortunate that there's kind of this alternate path to take. I thought this was the most intuitive. I actually didn't try that. I just went straight to just, kind of doing it in the loop. And I think when I first solved it, I actually placed the letters in the loop. I had it on paper, right? I was doing this on the physical guide. And so you can kind of start saying like, oh, you can mark all of these numbers with their letter. So that's a good way to do it. But that is sort of a weakness I'll mention here. So what happens next? Find rhyme coordinates. Well, that doesn't start with the number, so we know we're not done. And what you have to do is start looking at. I'll hide this leather link again. You have to start looking at the map because there are a lot of rhymes here, right? When you start looking at these, there are quite a lot of rhymes. We have more donuts or carts. We have great carousel, skate, escapade. There are a lot of things that rhyme with each other, right? But if you start categorizing them, there was something that jumped out to me because that was what I did. I started categorizing them. I said, okay, like tree with spree, and in fact Grand Prix, right? And that's a sneaky one because you make sure you're not reading the. Anyway, I'll get to that in a second. But drive-in and Elvis live and live band again, right? We have live a couple times. We have ticks and tricks, and what really did it for me was I saw heaven and Revin. And when you see heaven and Revin, you should think, man, those sound a lot like the number 7, because we're looking for coordinates, and these all of the attractions have a word that rhymes with a number. So tree 3, wine 9, gate 8. You can go all the way through. Every single attraction has a number rhyming with it. And in addition, what you have to notice next is that the second word, or if some of them have more than one, but essentially the other capitalized word of each clue starts with the letter A to I. So you do get a new coordinate out of each of these, and I've hidden them right here, but as long as I have it revealed, yeah. Tree fortress, right, is fortress starts with F, and tree rhymes with 3. Barrel starts with B, wine rhymes with 9. Arrival starts with A, gate rhymes with 8. Now there's no guaranteed order. You just have to. I think you usually find the rhyme first and then take the other word because I think there are a couple ambiguous ones like fun house, right? They both start with letters in the range of A to I. So, but only fun, right? Fun rhymes with 1. House does not rhyme with a digit, so it's H1 and not F. I don't know what. So you can go through and mark every single attraction with a new coordinate. And of course that gives you, guess what, a new slither link. You don't have to change the scents. The scents stay exactly the same. So now Tree Fortress puts a 3 at F3 instead of F6. And Wine Barrel, or I should say Arrival Gate puts a 1 at A8 instead of C1. Right? They can be anything. So if we build a new slither link, I've also hidden that off to the side here, and I
have, again, I generated a code for it. So I could, if I can put that here. So I generated a code for it so that I could plop that into my solver, and I'll open that up again. Display puzzle. Now we've got a new puzzle. So this is our new puzzle, right? Again, I said just as an example, we'll do tree fortress was F3, and it's marked with 3 cents. So F3. Actually, I'll do it on this page, right? F3 is a 3, right? So go through, mark all the things. You'll see that they have the same numbers, right? For example, there are 5 zeros here and 5 zeros here. It's the same set of digits, but they're scrambled around according to new coordinates. So we've rhymed, we found new coordinates, and now we're going to solve this new Slytherin. So I'll go forward and do that here. So again, mark some zeros. We have some standard 3 configurations. Another one here. We have a 0 and a 3 to mark off. That gets forced in multiple directions. We have more zeros. We have some diagonal 3s like that. We have, that's forced, that corner next to the 0. We have, I think that's how you start off. So next up, again, this must go this way or this way. I'm lying. It could go this way. Wait for that. So up in the corner here, I can't, if I have this, I also need to have that. So we're going to mark both of those off for the one. This one has the same problem now. So this one ends up being complete there. What's next? It must go this way or this way. So I'm going to mark both of those. We're going to look at this 3 is complete. So that helps me. Should have noticed that when I was filling things out. I can't go this way. That'll form a closed box. So I'll put the right side of that 3 and move that forward. This 2 has to go in that direction, and the path will wind out there. I notice that, what do I notice? Okay, now that I have this blocked, I know that these 2 are colored in the path. These 2 must both be attached to the 3. This 3 forces this 2. That 1 is now complete. That's a dead end, so this 1 has to go there. This will now be a dead end, so we've come up to that 3. That's got to go straight up. Interesting. We have, I'll mark some of these off to see if I can, there, this one is complete, so now I can move that in both directions. If this goes up, this wire that I just moved up becomes a dead end. So I'm actually I can mark that off, which means this one is now complete that way, and I can fill in the path there. I know one of these, only one of these, so I can do that. Let's see, if I mark that, this becomes a dead end, so that moves out, and the 3 is now complete. This is forced to go in that direction. The 2 is complete. We will mark that. That's a dead end. Not that I guess, well, yeah, we can't do a whole lot yet. That's a dead end, so the 2 is now complete, and I can move it that way. That's a dead end. Keeps moving. The 1 is done, so there, now I've done something useful, because now I can mark off that whole area. The 3 has to go that way, so that's done. Whoops, careful there. This has to move up for that dead end. If I move in this direction with the path, then this wire has to go this way, and that breaks this 1 in the center. Similarly, if I go, actually, let's just mark that. I know I can't go this way, and so that has to go straight down, and then that completes the 1. That's the easiest way to do that. And now there's a 3 to complete. We have not much left. This last bit is going to be tricky. So I think the way this works is if look at this big inner loop, and then we have kind of an outer section that they're all just this big inner loop and the big outer loop are disconnected so far. So if I do this, let's make that guess. If I move down here, there's no way it'll have to connect to this wire right here. It'll have to do 1, 2, 3, 4. Because the 1 is complete, it'll be forced that way. And now the inner section will never connect, right? The outer section will meet itself and form a complete loop, and we haven't included this. There can only be 1 loop. So this is not going to go down. It's going to go in. And now the 3 is complete, and now we can kind of finish this off. The 1 has to go there, so I have to loop it all the way around, and That is the solution if I check it. So now I have a new loop. And what I'm going to do again is take the coordinates inside the loop that have numbers on them, right? That have attractions on them. So we're going to have, and I have another index match formula here that is going to select the text based on the new coordinate. Remember, it's the rhyming coordinate. So I'll show an example, right? If I type in A1, it pulls up artillery gun because it's artillery starts with A and gun rhymes with 1, right? The actual coordinate of artillery gun was originally B5. Make sure you don't use that one when you're pairing these off. So when you right, so first I have, so if you're doing this by hand and you don't have an Excel formula, you have H1 I1, and just make sure that you get Funhouse and Iceberg Run and not, well, some of these hopefully should tip you off because I think H1, for example, doesn't have an initial attraction on it. There is no attraction with H1, so hopefully that's not too hard to sort out that subtle difference when you're taking these new coordinates. But new coordinates, I have H1, I1, I have a 0 at, which looks like F2, I have a 3 at F3, I have another 3 at H4, we have B5 and E5, we have E6, there's nothing in row 7, we have C8, E8, H8, and I8, and nothing in row 9. So now, doing it once again, doing just rinse and repeat, the first letters actually spell fifth letters. If you just read down this column, it spells fifth letters. So still not quite done. What does fifth letters mean? And I'll hide this guy because if you go back to the original map, we're going to take the fifth letter of every single attraction from left to right, top to, or, going down column 1, column 2, column 3. And that's easy to do, especially how I've set it up here. So if I just do a mid formula, it takes a segment, so I can select this string and say start at character 5, right, fifth letter, and just take one letter. And if I extend that all the way down, we get our final message. Thank goodness. I will zoom out, and we get this big message here. It says 5 poke holes in red and blue letters. That is our final mini puzzle solution. So at this point, and unfortunately, I'm not going to do this on webcam. I kind of was thinking about it, but I kept testing it, and so I have this brochure that I've diced up, and it just doesn't show up well on camera because everything is so small. Like maybe if I had it poster sized or something, but it turns out the pennypark.fun. So here at the Grand Castle, we can click Pennypark Guide, and there's a solution up here. So I'm just going to use some pictures. I'm not just going to pull that up directly, but I am going to use some pictures from that solution to demonstrate what we're going to do next. So let me pull all of these phrases together, right? So we have one, maybe you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get a notepad here. Let's get a notepad. And can I grab this notepad? Untitled notepad. Boop. Did it work? It's underneath some things. So I'll put this right in the center. I'm going to go gather from my docs all of the mini puzzle solutions, and they start with numbers. Right? So we have 1. We have, in fact, I'll just put 3 while I'm on this page. I'll take 3. We have 2. Connect centers of red pennies. So I'm going to take all of these instructions together. We have 4. We just did this with repeat this process. Lime pennies. And 5, which is our latest, poke holes in red and blue letters. So these are all instructions of what you should do with the overall brochure. So I'll let me take this little notepad I've pulled up and kind of, whoops, I don't want that to happen. Let's I think, oh, there we go. That's better. I'll take it and I'll put it up in the corner here. In fact, I'll put it, where should I even, I'll put it here. Let's get rid of this text for now. I'm sure you figured out where this hunt is. So if I shrink it a little bit and just have it on the bottom of the screen, I'll zoom out on the guide, and I'll try to figure out what's going on here. So 1, find and cut out 2 orange regions, right? And so on the back side here, if I flip the page, there are these 2 big, it kind of, for me, I was kind of confused by this at first. It looks like 1, but you can essentially kind of ignore that really thin strip on top of the op-ed. So basically, the first orange region is the free admission, and then the second one is where it says come visit us at the castle. So you cut out all of the orange section. And that's a lot easier to recognize if you printed this thing, because again, these are like separate pages you've folded roughly along these magenta lines. And so this is the very, very back, I think, of the guide, and this is kind of like an inside page. So you can cut those two sections out. Don't mess with the king's crown, like cut along here and just slice and dice. Then connect the centers of the red pennies and valley fold. So valley fold is inwards, right? So fold the king's head to meet roughly where trivia time is, right? You fold those in on each other after you've cut. Then repeat this with lime pennies. So the lime pennies are on the reverse side. Right here we have lime pennies. And so let me show you what it looks like. I think I've got picture number 1. Thanks to MIT for having this in their solution page. They have these pictures that really clearly, like I could never have represented this really well on camera, or even like in GIMP. I think it would have taken me a while. So I was very happy to open it up after solving and seeing like, oh my goodness, it's they just have this. So here's what it looks like. Here's what you get. You do what, 2 folds and some cutting, and you get this. That's all this is, right? Cut and 2 folds. So we haven't done 5 yet. The poke holes in red and blue letters, you can kind of see where these are, right? We have some red and blue letters not only in the crown, but in the welcome to Castle Region on a completely different page. And at this point, again, if you've been following this along and you've been trying to solve a lot of this on your own, pause the video, figure out something should look familiar here. Something should jump out at you, and you should be amazed at all of they've made with this brochure. So without further ado, what we're looking at is a rough resemblance of the United States penny, right? We have the circle, which is clearly outlined. We have this text on the top. We have a crown, and these lines of the hair move into the lines of the balloons from earlier. We have this thing, and if I go look up, I don't think I have a picture of that. If I look up the tail side of a US penny, whoa, come back. This is harder than I thought. It's just not there. Let's pull up some pictures here. Look at that. Would you look at that, right? It's got this little shield emblem, and United States of America across the top, 1 cent right in the middle, e pluribus unum. So when you look at this is a penny. In fact, and the really interesting thing, which I'll get back to in a moment, is that the letters tend to line up. So you have United States of America. All of these words, welcome to Castle Region, in reverse order, have the same number of letters to fit United States of America. And then E pluribus unum matches the king's name here, abbreviated. And Penny Park doesn't do that because Penny Park 1 cent, so that's not going to end up being a problem for us. But everything else matches. Whoops, spoilers. We have, what was I going to point at? The rest of but the emblem, that shield, should really stick out as, the general shape of it is there, and I loved having that realization. And so what we've got is, and by the way, make sure you follow all the settings on the main page here, because if you don't do this, if you don't I would open in Adobe Acrobat, right, and make sure to check these settings that they're talking about, because otherwise there's some inaccuracy, and when you fold it, you may not get something this neat. So you've done all this. We do 5 poke holes in red and blue letters. And what you start seeing the last section of the guide. I do have GIMP up still, so I'm going to zoom in on the last section of the guide that we haven't used. We've used literally everything here. The king is now being used, right? We used the blue ad and all the things, and the free admission we cut out. So this section is actually what's left. And it's got a bunch of numbers in it. And sure enough, when you start poking, I took a pencil and I started stabbing my guide, and I started poking through these letters, and you see those numbers. So here's the second picture where they did that so nicely. It doesn't look frayed and like I had a temper tantrum, and it's a very nice picture. But yeah, you start seeing, so there's a 1 and a 10 and a 15 and a 6, and let's see if I can zoom in even more here. Gosh, it's so small. Like, it's so small, and this is why I was like, there's no way I can webcam this, right? But these numbers that show up underneath, and some of them are multiple numbers. We have 4, 12, we have 14, 15, and 2. And then even in here, there's actually red letters on the and blue letters on the crown, and they each have like 3 numbers going on. So this is the really tricky part where you punch through the letters or you get some numbers. And initially, I tried taking the letters we were punching through. So I said like, so I wrote out the letters. I think I can do this without too much difficulty. So let's see. If I do I have any space on one of these tabs? Let's just do it here where I have a lot of space. So we have a meta, right? And what you notice when you're looking at in fact, just look at the right side of the screen here. I'll zoom in a little bit more. We've got the numbers here are unique. They are counting, right? We have one of every number from 1 to I think 15 is the maximum here. We have number 1, right? Oh, I don't have my pen. I lost my pen tool. Oh well. But we have 1 to 15 letters. I probably won't do this. I think I have another photo I can find here. Um, but essentially we have the numbers 1 to 15. And so I tried taking initially the letters that were being covered or punched through. So like 1 was T, and what's 2? So it's welcome to Castle Region. The 2 is in the I of region. I want to illustrate this because I think it's important that I think most people might try this first. Especially, by the way, so you can do this much if you haven't realized that this is a big penny, right? If this is the shape of a giant penny, if you haven't realized that, you can totally do this. You can punch through the letters, see these numbers, and try organizing them. So 3 is going to be this, it says K Peniton? I think that's an N. It's an N. Whoops. Um, Stop it. Okay, so we have an N on 3, E on 4. Maybe, I don't think it's worth going all the way through, but essentially you get gibberish. This is not gibberish, not as gibberish as I expected, but you do get gibberish trying to select the letters that you're punching through. And so the thing to do, of course, is reference the United States penny for the actual letters that appear where those numbers are. So I think there's one more picture. Yes, perfect, perfect. I knew I was going to find this. So here is an overlay, right, of the United States penny on top of the brochure that they did so beautifully. And so if you do that, that ends up spelling your answer. So the T right there, I won't do it all here, but the answer ends up being Fireball Roberts. So you have I'll fill out my doc for completion, but you end up getting Fireball Roberts. Do it yourself to convince yourself how this works, and again, just it's the numbers 1 through 15, and the 1 corresponds to the letter in the place of the T on the penny, right? So we have F. I'll do like a couple letters. I'll get fire, right? We have a 2 on I, which is United. We have the United States, so it's going to be an I of it is an I actually. We have a 3 again on Cape Pennington, so it's the 4th letter of E pluribus unum, right? So that's U. I lied. It's R. It's the 4th letter of the second word. I don't know. And so on it goes, right? Fireball Roberts is how you finally end up solving this enormously difficult puzzle. It's just so much. It's so here's my take on this, right? Because now I finally reached the end. This is multi-part video with 6 mini puzzles in total, right? We've got so much going on here. If I go to the solution, I'll get a good glimpse of what's happening here. Fireball Roberts is the answer. Again, I think the best part of this puzzle by far is the fact that they were able to do so much with the penny theme. Like, it was really fun having just, you solve one of them and then you realize that all of the puzzles are going to be about pennies in some way, and that really is a good hint to everything else that goes on. It's so much fun. So the first mini puzzle, love it, no complaints. I think that was great. Again, lots of like interactive material and front back, good use of the brochure, like really interesting, like just this stuff, Druid Malfurion and whatnot, really good. Puzzle 2, I don't like how much it relies on flavor text. I think that's one of my pet peeves. Is I really don't like, personally, like I think it's a great way to do a puzzle, but if I move let's bring up page 1. Like this guide here. Oh gosh. Oh, there we go. This guide here, this how to use guide, gives you all sorts of flavor text that you have to key into. And if you don't have that recognition of, bored to bits, clean binary, or again, first initial impressions being first letters, and include meaning you have to get things inside the loop. And just there's all of that. All of that is here, right? And if you don't get that, it can make the puzzle ridiculously more difficult at any stage, at any one of various stages. And so I think that this puzzle was particularly weak for that. Like the puzzle itself was really good. I really loved the how they fit so much into such a small segment of the brochure. But I think that's where it's weakest. It relies so much on that flavor text, and if you can't get binary, you're just gonna be stuck. Um, Part three, I think, was actually better because it didn't have any flavor text. In fact, it just had like you had to start thinking about like, well, how does this relate to pennies? And of course, the animals have heads and tails, and heads and tails was the really cool theme here, where we had to start finding not only were there penny phrases, right, but then you had to start taking heads and tails. So that was really cool. I thought that one was solid, no reliance on the flavor text. You just had to make the jump. It felt a lot more authentic for some reason. Um, Puzzle 4 that we just did, I think it was I get that it was hard to put together. I think it was hard to design because there were so many constraints, right? You had to find words starting with CU that could be replaced by each of the first 8 periodic elements, and then find a synonym in some capacity for each of those words, and then write a bunch of sentences with those words. So I get that there are a lot of constraints, but I do feel like some of them were not, like, especially curate, arrange, cull, select. I don't know why. Those are not very like satisfying pairs of things. Like they're just more loose. And you kind of like like you figure them out, or you take a guess at what it might be, and then you kind of just move on. Like you're not very again, like Cuban Island and Mary Curie, you're like you get it, and you're like, that's it, that's right. I can use that as evidence for my theme, and move forward with my puzzle. But then when you start getting these words, I almost think I had some alternatives in this first. I had thought care slash dollar prices. Maybe not. Maybe I think that's the nice thing is they did do a good job of making these kind of unique. Maybe it was just. I think my complaint was just with the similarities of the word select and arrange. I don't know. There's something there that was a little bit unresolved for me. But overall, I mean, definitely, I loved the again the fact that you got to kind of use the printed version, right? It was much better to print this out and solve it that way. Um, and then the map, absolutely my favorite. I love, again, I'm just a fan of logic puzzles, but it was fun to kind of do it twice. That was such a cool. I loved the fact that they designed it two unique slither links with the same. With this, not only did they like, it's a crazy constraint when you think about it. I don't know if like this is going to be hard to get across. I think to talk about, but they had to make two slither links with the identical sets of numbers, right? So for every 0 and 1, there had to be a 0 and another. So it's okay. That's not too bad. But they had to be unique solutions, and like they had, I don't know how. Like it's even hard to think about. And maybe this, I think I'm just, if I tried to design it, I might find out something that would make it easier. But the idea that every number in the loop, its coordinate has to start with a specific letter. Like, I don't know, like that's the constraint you're dealing with, is that a very specific set of these numbers in order have to be in the loop. And that's sort of a crazy thing. And I think the way it works is they must have like made these first and then placed them in and then kind of populated the rest of the grid until it was unique. I don't know. It just seems really. I guess actually, I guess that is it, because I guess what they had the most freedom on was the front end. So I think they had to reverse engineer it. Like they had to start from the end, but it's I'm really impressed all the way through. Like they use so much. Like every fifth letter, not every single clue. They knew what the fifth letter was. They knew pretty much what the first letter was. Most of them had a specific first letter, and they had to had one word start with a coordinate and the other word rhyme with a coordinate. It's like there are so many constraints between the words and the slither links. It was so much fun to solve. It was so impressive to like review and think about like how did they do this. Um, I loved this. It was and like and they doubled up, right? I love that it doubled up on the instructions, and it was never confusing at any point. Like as soon as you realize it's a Slither link, you're off to the races. It's really I loved this section. This was the best, and this was really cool too. I thought again it was a wonderful finale where they got to really home in on their on just all of the pennies, right? You've been staring at the guide for so long by the time you get to this point, and you still, if you, and hopefully, I wonder, I think the best solvers would probably have seen it coming, but I did not. I absolutely did not see it coming. I did not notice that, like, the king's crown and hair were going to be part of that shield, right? And that the Penny Park banner, because that's something you could see right off the get-go. Like, you could, in theory, just look at the banner and be like, man, that looks exact same, and it's copper colored, right? It's like the banner on a penny, and you could notice that this resembles the bottom half of a penny. It's totally possible, but I didn't, so I had a good kick out of recognizing this, um, and it made for a nice final wrap up to the whole thing. Now, I will say, actually, I do have to rewind and say that despite this Puzzle 5 being my favorite, it has the least amount to do with pennies. Is there anything it has to do with pennies? Like, I mean, not almost not like pretty much nothing. There's nothing about it that has anything to do with pennies, as far as I can tell. Hope it, now maybe leave in the comments if there's something I missed about this map here, right? That maybe they did something clever, but it really felt like this was the one that actually fell short of the penny theme. Despite it being, I mean, it was such a good puzzle, and I like definitely wouldn't change it. But yeah, it is kind of suddenly you think about it, and you're like, man, like every other puzzle had at least something. Like this one, they got more vague as well. Like this one's, okay, pennies are and copper. Copper is the theme here that has to do with pennies. Um, but everything else really sold it, and even the finale. And so it's just funny that this. I think that's my. I have to say that that's my biggest complaint because it almost spoils my. I won't say it spoils my enjoyment. It can't ruin my enjoyment, but I just it's just one of my like like I'm kind of peeved and that I'm able to say that this is the only puzzle that really doesn't have any pennies in it. Um, and I get it. Like I also get how much can you really do with pennies because clearly the answer is a lot. um, but yeah, it's just funny that they um, that this didn't get like I don't know like maybe I mean again it is just a short idea like it's definitely not its own puzzle. You can't make this its own puzzle. It's something that has to fit in something else. But I don't know what I could even I don't have any suggestions off of the top of my head like how would you have done something else. Oh, actually, I am lying. The one little thing it had was these cents, right? These little cent symbols indicated the numbers going into the grid. So at least they made a tie-in that way. So I think that's enough for me. Like I get that with this idea, there's no way to put it. It would really be forced if you tried to make anything else in it have to do with the penny. I think it would be so forced. So at least you've got that going for it. But it is definitely like the loosest of the 6 puzzles involved in getting to the end of this one. So I think that's all I have to say here. Um, leave a comment if you enjoyed and you were able to solve some of it yourself. But yeah, I've got some more videos coming out because if I go back to the Grand Castle, I have finished everything. I think I'm gonna have to do my next video on Snow Job because that one defeated me. I had to back solve it. But yeah, thanks for watching and stay tuned for more of these puzzles. And go ahead and try. I would say anyone should try Trebuchet. That is a mean puzzle. It is a brilliant puzzle. I love Trebuchet. It was a great start. So, anyway, guys, thanks for watching.